Welcome to Martin Survival. Today I'm going to show you step by step in how to create and construct a simple pull snare. So stick around and let's get started. Alright, so welcome back to Martin Survival. Now the first thing we need to do is pick the correct materials to construct and build the snare. So right here, I'm in a field of willow. And this willow grows very, very straight. So this is going to be perfect for my snare. Now it doesn't matter if this particular snare is a wet piece of wood or a dry piece of wood. Either one will work because we're going to lodge it into the ground. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my clippers here and cut right at the base of this willow. And harvest it just like this. Now I want to discuss game trails and how to construct and build the snare using this piece of willow. So right here we have a game trail, and this is exactly where I would want to set my snare. Through this bed of willow on the other side, I did find water. So this animal is traveling through this area to go and get a drink of water. Now remember, with these snares, we have to set it on a game trail. If we don't have it on a game trail, this particular snare will not work. We want it to travel through that animal highway and loop itself and pull tight. So setting it on a game trail, extremely important with this particular trap. Another thing is we want to set multiple traps on multiple game trails. We don't want to just set one trap. We want to increase our chances of securing a small game animal. All right, so here's our trap all set up and ready to go. What I have is I have my post stick that I just batoned with a wooden baton into the ground. I have a clove hitch wrapped around, forming my noose with two Y branches. So what happens is that animal is traveling its game trail. It realizes that it's in a sticky situation, and its natural reaction is to pull out. And you can see what happens. It chokes that animal. Now this is 550 cord. The best thing to use with these snare type traps is snare wire. Why is that? Well, the animal's going to be fighting for its life, so it can chew through this 550 cord. With snare wire, it will not be able to chew through it. Now, what I'm going to show you in just a second here is how to build this just like the Native Americans did, using natural plant fibers and, of course, the materials that I just gathered a minute ago. When this animal is choked out like this, we have to finish it off. Most likely, it'll still be alive, fighting for its life once again. So we just come through with our baton, kill it, and then we can start cooking our food. All right, so now that I showed you how the trap works and how it's set up, I want to show you exactly how to construct it. So there's a few things we're going to need. Number one, the most important factor is cordage. So right here, I have processed yucca. Now the best cordage to use with this particular trap is nettle fibers, but I checked the surrounding area, I couldn't find any, so this is what's available. I just went ahead and I processed this down, made a loop at the end, and fed the cordage through in itself. So we'll just set this to the side for right now. The next thing is our Y branches, and these are very important. So I have two of them that I just clipped off, once again the willow tree, and I want to process these down. The next thing is, of course, our larger piece of willow, or our post stick. That's going to drive into the ground. And then with this process, of course, we need good tools. So the tool that I'm going to use today is my Hele knife. This is the Tamagami. I also have a Swiss Army multi-tool here. And then a good pair of clippers. You saw me use these when snipping some of that willow off to the side here down. All right, so with that being said, we are ready to construct our trap. And the first thing I want to do is just shape our Y branches here, as you can see I have right here. And that's very easy. All I do is I just kind of create a tip on the bottom of the branch just so it can drive into the ground. So there's one, and here's our second one. Now these Y branches, remember what these are going to do is they are going to hold that piece of cordage in place. That's very critical to this trap. All right, so that should be about good. Both of these are processed. Now we're ready to start working on our post stick. So what I have is quite a bit, as you can see. And the more you have with this trap, the better it is. Of course, you're not going to harvest a big 5-6 foot branch and try to drive that into the ground, but anywhere from 7 to 14 inches will work. So what I want to do is on this side, I just want to hold it right here, and I want to start beaver chewing around towards the top of this. And that's going to seat the cordage in a notch. That's also very important with this trap. So we flip it over and just do the same thing. Now we don't want to go too deep, and why is that? Well, because when we start pounding this into the ground, what'll happen is it'll split. So we just want to go just enough to seat our cordage, like I said. Not very deep at all. Now I tie, like I said earlier in the video, a clove hitch around this. You can tie a couple loops. My co-instructor does the same thing. He does the loop deal. He just ties 2 loops at the end and wraps it around his seat. So now that we got that taken care of, as you can see here, what I want to do is I want to sharpen this end so we can drive that into the ground. And all I do is I start removing material, just like this. And we're just going to taper this a little bit. All right, so that should be about good. Now that I got that done, I can take my handy clippers once again, and I can cut this up at the top. A little bit tough there, thick piece of wood. So this should be about good. Now I can wrap my cordage around. Once again, I create a clove hitch. You can do loops, either one will work. So I wrap it around once, forming my X, and then feed it right through the center and pull tight. All right, so that should be about good. Nice and tight. Want to make sure it's very secure. So if an animal runs in there and it starts fighting, it's not going to loosen up. We just want to get that nice and tight, just like that. So as you can see, we now have our post stick, our yucca cordage with our slip knot on the top, and we're ready to start pounding this into the ground and set it up. Let me show you how that's done right now. So once again, our trap is set up and ready to go. We have our post stick or our pole driven into the ground, wrapped around with this yucca cordage, forming our loop at the end, and that loop is held into place with these 2 Y branches. Now with yucca cordage, there is advantages and disadvantages. The advantage is it conceals itself and blends in with the environment, as you can see. The disadvantage, once again, our animal can chew through this cordage when fighting for its life, just like 5/50 quarter bank line. So my preferred material to use is, once again, snare wire. The snare wire not only grips that animal tight, it also blends itself in, and the animal can't chew through that cordage, or that material. So that's my preferred material when trapping animals using this method. But our animal is traveling through its game trail, realizes it gets stuck in this loop, and its jerk reaction is to get out of that situation, so it pulls itself. What happens, you can see. It chokes itself, then we can come with our stick or our knife and finish that animal off, and we have ourselves a meal. Now with this yucca cordage, it is kind of stiff, so we got to set it up a little bit differently with this compared to 550 cord or bank line. We got to kind of push it down and wedge it in between these two wide branches, unlike the paracord where we can just set it right on top, because once again this is very, very stiff, unlike some of the other man-made cordages. Animal runs through, pulls itself, and it's done. All right guys, so that's just about going to wrap things up for me today. I do appreciate you joining me for this video. I'm Jeff with martinsurvival.com, and we'll see you in the next one.